Happy Monday, folks. Not so happy in Buffalo as our Buffalo Bills. Let's just say it was akin to a trip to the proctologist.
It's not unexpected, though.
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, Nathan Peterman was so bad that they had to bring in the rookie quarterback that they didn't want to bring in. And now it's a question of whether Nathan Peterman will ever see the light of day again. Although I think there's a chance he could actually start again, even though he was horrible. But we have some pre-show stuff, so go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, pre-show. First one is I'll go with football since you did talk football and Aaron Rodgers. I was falling asleep in the first half of that game last night because it was 20-3, 20-6, and something woke me up right before the second half started. So I said, all right, let me watch it. And Rodgers, I didn't know about the injury because I'd fallen asleep. Yeah. And Rodgers is on one leg, throwing touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And, the announcers, likened it to Willis Reed. And I have to admit, it really was like that, except the thing about Willis Reed is he only made a couple baskets and left the game. He just outsmarted and psyched out Wilt Chamberlain at the time. Aaron Rodgers stayed in his game and dominated.
Well, he threw the first touchdown he basically threw on one leg. It was a weird motion but as the game went along and he was back in, he started to throw with, I guess with less pain or whatever. But I have a friend who's a big Packers fan, and she was like, "Oh no," on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And I turn on the game because I'm sorry, I just don't watch football as much anymore. And they show him being carted off, and then they showed the play where it didn't look that bad. I mean, but we've seen ACL injuries that don't look bad, and then
contact, you just never know.
Right. And then all of a sudden he's on the sideline and he's got the helmet on. And I'm like, is he actually going to come back? And I didn't think of Willis Reed. I thought the only thing I could think of, and it was a completely different circumstance, but do you remember that Monday night game where Brett Favre, his dad had passed away? And it was and that was a completely different circumstance, but in terms of coming back, coming on the field and just being it was an out of body experience. It was similar to that because it was incredible, and he was doing it on one leg.
Hold on, whoa! Someone's got to stop the Aaron Rodgers slurping hype train. My goodness, look, the guy's a great quarterback. I will absolutely give you that, but that throw he made, he barely had to. He moved to his left about 4 steps. He dropped back, waited, moved to his left. The Green Bay O-line is given more leeway than a semi at a train cross at a school crossing. Okay. It's unbelievable. And now, if you believe in conspiracy theories about NFL officiating, I think they called Clay Matthews for a penalty while Chicago had it, just so they made it look like it was going to be fair. Because Green Bay never takes penalties when Aaron Rodgers has the ball. It's uncanny. There's stats on this that say that it's insane. So here's what went wrong.
There were some great passes, though. There were.
It was no. I'm talking about the last play. The last play that got them the TD.
Sure.
Okay. Fantastic. But the only reason that play happens was because the Chicago defender lost his guy.
Yeah.
And they weren't playing with the safety in the backfield.
Right.
This was mind-boggling. It was absolutely mind-boggling.
This is what gets coaches fired, things like this.
Exactly. And so, yes, Green Bay won it fair and square. Aaron Rodgers came back, had a knee brace on, hobbled through it, made the play. Look, he gets tons of credit for that. But it wasn't an elite pass. It wasn't like some incredible thing where he threaded a needle through 6 guys' arms while he was, being pulled down by one arm. Sure. And it's game 1 of the season. And everyone just back up the bus here.
But I would say when he was, on one leg getting away from defenders out of the pocket, that was impressive.
Yeah, I mean his mobility on one leg was definitely was. So I mean I'm giving him a lot of credit for that. But it was, but honestly, again, I'm not a hater of the NFL, but I have to say, watching not only that game, not only the Bills game, the game on Thursday night we talked about on Friday, Russ, but then they cut to the Cleveland Pittsburgh. We turn on the Red Zone and we're watching Cleveland Pittsburgh, and
I watched the end of that, like the last quarter.
And right, I didn't see the last quarter. I saw the overtime, and this is how bad the NFL has gotten. They intercept the ball. I mean, yeah, you can say it was just a block kick, but that was a no-brainer. Cleveland wins, and they're basically their special teams, their offensive line just caved in, and the guy from Pittsburgh gets a hand on the. I mean, penalties galore.
Second most penalties this week, actually.
Yeah, penalties galore. One game was the highest scoring game on an opening day in NFL history. The Bills lost this by the second greatest amount in the history of the franchise. I mean, that's a statement on how bad they are. Yeah. But just, I mean, I came to this.
It is.
I came to this conclusion: if you're not involved in fantasy football and you're only a casual fan, which I am now, there's almost no reason to watch the games.
Yeah, you root for your home team. Like I'm rooting against Kevin Allen tonight, so that's the way it goes. Jets over Lions. But here's the thing. One other thing. So I hate managers that try and reinvent the game. And again, Phillies manager Gabe Kapler tried to do just that.
Uh-oh.
Basically, in the second inning of a game that you knew was going to rain all game, takes out his first baseman, Justin Bour, because he had already gotten 2 at-bats, and he was like, well, he's going to get 2 at-bats this game. And he takes him out of a game in the bottom of the second inning. Like, you don't know if that game's going to go to extra innings. You don't know if you're going to need him as a pinch hitter or somebody as a pinch hitter. Like, it was mind-boggling considering this is a team in a pennant race, and you're just taking out players like that so quickly.
Now, I'll do a brief addict here. I made a discovery on the weekend. I mean, I'm not someone who frequents estate sales, but like I was going to visit my niece who just had a little baby boy, and on the way to visiting her, I see an estate sale on the corner of the street that she lives on. So I stopped in, and it was a former photographer for UPI. And for those who are in their 20s, UPI, United Press International, was a wire service alongside AP. I don't believe they're any longer in existence, right, Russ? They're gone. Well, this guy had tons of photographs from when he was a photographer in the 70s. There was some O.J. Simpson stuff that I don't think many people were interested in anymore, but it was, like some old Bills games. He was taking pictures of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and there was actually like an interesting photo with, it looked like Bruce Keeson or somebody like that sitting in the dugout with a ball with his hand on his head. Must have gotten bombed or something. But the pictures that I bought for a few bucks, he was a photographer at Sabres games, and this one stood out. It is the goaltender is Mike Palmateer. This is like circa 1977 or 78, and I'm going to see if I can get this blown up and framed because it's a great photo.
Yeah,
Mike Palmateer in goal. On the very left over here is Danny Gare.
Yeah.
This is Boreas Salming, and this is Gilbert Perreault. So you have 2 Hall of Famers in this photo. It's cool. I mean, and
UPI photos too. I did. I bought one of Tom Seaver signing his second pro contract, and it was done during the winter, like at Shea Stadium. He's with Gil Hodges, and it's funny because like he's wearing the team jacket and stuff. And then another one was Joe Namath and Weeb Eubank, I think, was getting lifted from the team after beating the Raiders in the playoffs.
Was it? Oh, I was gonna say, it wasn't the Heidi game, was it?
No, I don't think it was the Heidi game, but it was after a playoff win, which there haven't been many for the Jets over the Raiders. So
okay, let's get started because we have a trade to talk about. We have a contract signing to talk about. We have a couple teams that we're going to preview. We're going to start doing previews every show here. And while Russ is taking care of a simpering puppy, we'll hold off for 1 second until he gets into position. Peter, no, Winnipeg. Who did they play in a rookie tournament? Because all the rookie tournaments were this
They
week.
played Vancouver for 2 games. So there's been a bit of a dispute in the West where Edmonton and Calgary are doing their own thing, and now Vancouver and Winnipeg are doing theirs. So the whole thing's been watered down, unfortunately. So it's sort of like a 1-1 day off, and then they play again. So Winnipeg lost both games. They 8-2 the first one, and then 6-4, I think, last night.
Yeah.
6-4, if I remember. I didn't watch. I was tied up with other things. There's some fun in these things. I think it's great for fans in different areas to get a look at some stuff. I think it's good maybe for just to see some interesting things as the prospects you haven't maybe seen yet. But these tournaments, I don't think hold a ton of overall value for commenting on too much. Certainly not live tweeting.
Well, no.
But I think that they do hold some good content if you're observing.
I don't think it's great fan content from a discussion point. I think they serve different purposes in that, but they're fun, and that's all that matters.
Well, and I did live tweet the game, and I didn't the Leafs, Senators, and Canadians. They held their rookie tournament in Toronto last year. This year was Montreal's turn, so they held it in Laval. And there was some rough stuff in some of these games, especially, Montreal, Ottawa, a player named Jake Evans got leveled in that game and taken off the ice on a stretcher. And then somebody else got leveled for Montreal against Toronto yesterday, and he got taken off on a stretcher. So, and then there were a bunch of, they were taking runs at Jeremy Bracco, Mason Marchment. It really got a little hairy there for a second.
They can get heated.
Yeah, and these are guys who are fighting. I mean, some of them are fighting for AHL contracts. That's how important this is. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's get the show started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, September 10th, 2018.
I'm Peter Tessie in Winnipeg with a fresh haircut.
I can't even touch that. I'm Russ Cohen. Oh my God.
You need hair to have a haircut?
No, but he's got this whole look going. I didn't even get to shave my beard. I've been having a head cold.
I didn't get a haircut for 2.5 months.
Oh God!
I just decided I was just not going to get one.
Peter, I have very, very little left, but I do get it. I get the whole thing, the beard shaved and shaped and everything. I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Where we'll discuss the Arizona Coyotes and Anaheim Ducks team previews today. But we'll start off with the big news of the day, and it happened around 1 a.m. And I was unconscious at that point. But the Montreal Canadiens finally pulled off the deal that we all expected. We expected Max Pacioretty to move. We thought it might happen before training camp, and camp opens for most teams on Thursday. Pacioretty gets traded to the Vegas Golden Knights for Thomas Tatar, prospect Nick Suzuki, and a second-round pick. Now, if that wasn't enough, and we were all exchanging messages this morning, and I talked to Russ on the phone, and I said this deal didn't make a lot of sense unless Vegas got Pacioretty extended. And I didn't think that they would be doing this deal if they didn't have some sort of either understanding or confidence that they would get him signed. And just a few minutes ago, everybody reported that Pacioretty agreed to a 4-year extension for $28 million, $7 million AAV. Let's start with what the Canadians got. They got Suzuki, former first-round pick. They get a second-round pick. I believe it was in 2020, but it may have been
2019.
Okay. And they got Tatar, who did not play well for Vegas after the trade from Detroit. He barely played in the playoffs. He was making a little over $5 million. There was some salary retention in this deal that I didn't even know about until a little bit ago, where Pacioretty was $500,000 was retained on Montreal for his final year, and Vegas retained $500,000 on Tatar for 3 years. So they gave it a little bit of a haircut. But Russ, starting with you, what did you think of what Montreal got?
Well, I mean, look, Tatar for Montreal, he's like a seat filler. He'll be a little bit more than that. We know that he could be really good at times and be really bad at times, but they need players, so that's fine. Nick Suzuki's a heck of a player. Like, this is a stud player. Like, this is a guy that got snubbed from Team Canada for the World Juniors, probably because of his age. I mean, he literally just turned 19 in August. So, this is a guy with a huge future. He's a center. I did write about the trade in detail in Sportsology, but just to kind of let you know, like, Suzuki is smart. He's fast. He's a two-way guy. He's excellent on faceoffs. Like, this is a guy that you could put in there, and if he doesn't become your top-line center, could be your second-line center. But I think for him to start, like, let's say they send him back for a year, and then he's really still great, and they put him in the lineup, he'd probably start as their 3C. But think about it. Now they have 3 centers. I don't care what you think about Drouin. He is a center for them. And with
right now. Yeah,
right now, with those 3, with Kotkaniemi as well, not for this year, because I wouldn't recommend having Kotkaniemi in there either. The first rookie game wasn't great for him. I didn't get to see it, but that's what people are reporting. I'll take their word for it a little bit on that. But again, I wasn't going to put him in the league this year. Anyhow, I think this is a reset now for Montreal, so don't put him in the league. Send him back to Finland. I wouldn't even put him in the AHL. Like, I wouldn't even risk it. Let him go to Finland. Let him play center there the whole year, because he hadn't played center there the whole year with guys that he knows and not have to make that rink adjustment. Then bring him over next year, and if he gets the rink adjustment right away, then fine. But at least then you've got something going. And by the way, if he plays in the World Juniors, he'd have the rink adjustment because it's in Vancouver, which is an NHL rink. So unless even if they play at Pacific Coliseum, it's still an NHL rink. So either way.
Do what Columbus did with Dubois. Let him go back to junior, and in this case, let him go back to the SM Liga and play a primary role rather than. I mean, are you going to give him the 9 games? I don't think that makes sense.
I would give Suzuki the 9 games, and if Kotkaniemi wants the 9 games, fine. I don't care.
Right now, Peter, what do you think?
No reason to bring anyone in Montreal, given the state of their 2 franchise players. One, that you're not going to have Shea Weber till maybe January.
Right.
2, that you don't know what you're getting with Carey Price. So I mean, this deal is so interesting for the Habs because they finally look like they're heading in a direction, but you have these 2 albatrosses on the books that don't make sense for what they're trying to do. But if you keep everyone where they should be, knowing you don't have Weber, you're really on track for Hughes. This is the other side to this, is that this, right now, getting being horrible for Hughes, or whatever we're going to call it, is looking pretty darn good. And Montreal's got a good leg on this. If they can get Price down with a groin injury, it's a beautiful thing. And that's what they should be thinking about, to tell you the honest truth. They should be thinking about that, letting their prospects develop, as you just alluded to, Mike, the way Columbus did with Pierre-Luc Dubois, letting him play in the right areas and learn. And Russ, what you were saying about going back to Liga, and let's just get this done and do it right. Not trying to do a Hab thing.
Like, I literally think in 2 years, Peter, they could still have Weber and still have Price and still be a good team in 2 years. Like, I think that would be the start of things being good. And then maybe the year after. No, I think so. I do.
Well, no, and I'm not saying, okay, what I am.
Ryan Paling might be there in 2 years. Yeah. Like, they have other guys. Juleson will be a mainstay by then.
No, I think that part of it is right, but where I do think that Montreal, and you have to have some veterans around, but I think the opportunity is there now that, if they see an opportunity to trade an Andrew Shaw year, you do that. If you can trade Petrie, if you can trade I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying if you can find deals that are beneficial to you, or you can clear out cap space and trade off a veteran, because now you have a window. Now you're with your Montreal, if you're Bergevin, you're saying, okay, we're going to win 2-3 years down the line, and Price is 30 right now. And he can still be very good at 33, and with a young team in front of him, I think that still works. Where I think it doesn't work is Weber. And if Weber comes back in January and is playing good, I think Bergevin should. I mean, you can't undo that deal. You can't get PK Subban back. if you can find somebody who will give you value for Weber, who's 33 going on 34.
They'll hold on to him though. They will.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think that's something that they should explore. They probably won't, but I think they should. But okay.
I think the same way the Rangers are holding on to Lundqvist, these guys will hold on to Weber and they'll hold on to Price and probably.
You're not trading Price.
No.
Probably not. You're not trading Weber this year.
No. And Petrie, well, they probably hold on to those three. Yeah. Wait for these other young guys, which I don't think is long. And I think you're talking, and we do have to remember, and the chat room reminded me, and Max Domi's there too. He has good speed. He could click with one of these guys very
excuse me.
And he could get back on track. So
and more than likely your next team captain is either Weber or Brendan Gallagher. So if that really means anything.
In a couple of years they could be really good. Even by next year, it's possible these guys are fighting for roster spots.
Now, one of my main points was sort of undone by the fact that the Pacioretty extension was made a few minutes ago. But I looked at this and the first thing, and I said it to you, Russ, was that look at what Vegas invested in this deal. The deal was Suzuki, who was a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and Tatar, and they traded a 1, a 2, a 3 for Tatar. So you're talking 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s, and a 3 for Pacioretty, and that's why I thought there was no way that they would have done that if they didn't have any kind of confidence that they were going to get that deal done. Now they signed Pacioretty for 4 years at $7 million. That's a year short of the JVR deal, but I was saying this morning that makes sense. They're around the same age. I think he's a year older than JVR, so it makes sense. They didn't want to go into they went a year shorter on that deal than JVR's 5-year deal. But they're different types of players. I think Pacioretty's more of a power forward. But now you look at that team with Carlson, with Paul Stastny, with an up-and-coming Cody Glass, up the middle. Pacioretty is going to be with one of those guys, and he could very easily get back to scoring 30 goals again.
You've done a really good job of replacing James Neal's goals with Pacioretty and Stastny.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you've done, and in fact, you've done more. Like you've done more than just replace James Neal's production. You've brought in 2 great guys who still have skill, still have speed, can still put the puck in the net, can do a whole lot of other cliche things, and could arguably make some of the other guys around you a lot better.
And you know what, Russ? Vegas might not be done. At least they have enough. They have cap space to be able to do more if they want to do more. I mean, they still have to sign Shea Theodore. They have UFAs next year that they're going to want to get signed, like, probably Belmar and definitely Nate Schmidt, although with the situation that's going on with him, maybe his leverage isn't as great as it was. But, we've continued to hear the Carlson being tied to Vegas. I don't know if this means they're out of it, but they were able to move out salary in a deal for Pacioretty, not just trade young assets. Now, if they trade for Carlson, then you're probably talking about a deal that includes Brandstrom, and I don't know if you want to empty the coffers, but if they want to do that, they have the ability to do that.
Well, here's the thing, right? So I looked at that, and look, they still have 2A prospect, 2Bs, a couple Cs in their system, so it's not flushed out. But now Vegas has sort of revealed what they are. They liked the taste of the Stanley Cup last year. Yep. They're trying to get back. So they didn't spend a lot of money, not yet, because they spent more money, sure, because taking Pacioretty over to Tatar is a little bit of a bump, but not a huge bump. So they didn't raise payroll that much yet. For next year, clearly, if they re-signed Pacioretty, they will. And now we sort of have an idea that, hey, Vegas sort of likes what they have here. They think they can compete for a few years. So they're trading prospects and picks like an established team. To think that this was going to be their path when they started as an expansion team, right, nobody would have guessed. I don't care even if we go back to the original conversation where, Eck thought they would be good and you and I didn't, and then everybody changed their mind about it. There's no way you thought that they'd be in this kind of position second year in. Nobody would have thought that.
Right. Now, sort of ancillary from the trade and the new contract was the hubbub that came up after the deal this morning, where there was sort of like a he said, she said with whether Pacioretty had requested a trade. I mean, I don't even know if this is even worth talking about because he has been traded. I mean, is this saving face on the part of Bergevin? Is this like, are we calling Alan Walsh a liar or not? I mean, I'm not sure how much it really matters, but it's clear Pacioretty was on the block for a while. We don't know whether it was, he requested a trade or didn't request a trade. He was almost traded at the draft to the LA Kings. And you could say that, is the 6-year, $36 million contract that he turned down from the Kings, was that a better deal than the 4-year extension he got from Vegas? Well, somebody made the point that Nevada does not have any state income tax like Tennessee, like Florida, and like Texas. So he gets more money from that deal than he would have gotten from the LA Kings, and California's taxes are absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, does it really matter if Pacioretty asked for a trade, or if, Alan Walsh's assertion that they would sign a long-term extension if that was offered? I mean, does it really matter anymore?
I'll tell you what matters. If you get Alan Walsh as an agent and you're a player that wants to leave, he'll get you out.
Right.
You're getting that reputation. There's no question about it.
Alan Walsh delivers for his players. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Right.
What I'm curious about is there's a he said situation going on here, and only one of them knows the truth, or they both know the truth.
The case in Alan Walsh when they get the guy out. This is the second time now that things like this have come up, right?
There's second time in this situation.
Yes.
But there's other situations with Alan Walsh that have come up. Other things where, and I know with him dealing with the Jets when it was with Michael Frolik, he and Kevin Cheveldayoff had to put out a statement to confirm, because there's so much speculation and rumor going around, their statement to confirm that the talks are totally cordial and that everyone was on the same page about it. Like, that's how little faith the general public and maybe more have in what Alan Walsh says, because they have to diffuse the situation. They had to here, and they could have in Montreal too. So while Alan Walsh is amazing for his players, you have to wonder if there's a bit of a lifespan starting to happen with what he's going to be able to do based on who's going to want to be able to deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're giving yourself other headaches.
No, but I think there's a market for players that want to lead the teams they're on, long-term players that are having trouble getting themselves traded, for lack of a better term. You're going to call Alan Walsh.
Yeah.
If he's your agent.
You're going to change to Alan Walsh, and then he's going to get the job.
Or you're going to find that teams are maybe avoiding players who have Alan Walsh.
Well, we don't know that yet. So the only thing.
No, I'm just saying it could happen. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We could have a life cycle here of what his effectiveness is.
It's funny. Like, we hear that in baseball with certain agents, and yet teams still have guys from that agent on their teams. So I don't think any team really stays away from any agent for too long. If there's a player they want, they will deal with anybody.
Right. Like the Yankees, they deal with who's the Boros. Yeah, they and the Nationals, they do too, and maybe
Nationals have the most Scott Boras guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and teams like the Mets.
I think they have to deal with them. Conforto. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the some of the rookie tournaments and some things that we've seen or heard on this weekend. And I'll start with the Leafs and the Habs and the Senators. I know that Brady Tkachuk played in one of the games. I didn't see the Montreal Ottawa game, but he did play. I think he scored a goal.
He did score a goal. I saw that.
Yeah, Kotkaniemi played in the game against Toronto, and the indications that I got from people who were there was that he was sort of underwhelming, that he was, and this is a player that has been talked about since we were at the draft combine, Russ, that if the Canadians drafted him, that, there was an outside chance of him making the NHL as an 18-year-old. And I thought that was folly, and not to say that it's impossible that he improves at training camp, but I just think if you can wait a year or 2 years, you should wait. Now, where the encouraging thing for Toronto was the play of Jeremy Bracco, who I've long liked. And last year with the Marlies in his first full pro year, didn't get a lot of opportunity until late in the regular season, and then scored at a point per game pace. Yeah. He's and Russ. He's not a blazing speedster, but his edge work is so fantastic. And his playmaking ability is, I mean, his passes, he set up Carl Grunstrom for a goal. He set up a couple of others in the one game, and then he scored a goal on Sunday. He may not make it this year. He's probably going to get a full-time role with the Marlies this year. But I'm telling you right now, he's going to be if he has a good year in the AHL, he's going to be on the radar for the Leafs next season.
Yeah, at some point he will play with Austin Matthews. I'm telling you, because they are magic together. It's one of those things where Bracco sees things other people don't on these passes, and he really can do some things with the edge work, like you said, getting to open spaces, beating people to the open spaces. He's not the biggest guy, but he's a really smart hockey player. And so I agree. I was frustrated, and I told you that watching the Calder Cup and watching even the round before a little bit and not seeing him get the power play time he deserved, because like Ben Smith was sucking it all up. And, you know, it was ridiculous. And
I mean, Russ, they locked up on a certain lineup after game 5 of the first round. They kept the same lineup, barring injury, because they had like a 9-game winning streak. So they weren't going to mess with the lineup. But when he got a chance, when Andres Janssen was called up in March, he played for a month in a top 6 role and power play time and averaged over a point per game. So I think that's going to happen this year. Now, you had some notes about some other rookie tournaments.
I'm going to start with the Flyers because like Matt's put in like 3 paragraphs worth of stuff in the chat room. It's like, so let me get this out of the way. So I did write something on Sportsology people could check out. And I do have a video interview with Morgan Frost on my Instagram TV, IGTV. For Sportsology. So if you want to check it out, great. But here's what happened. So first thing is Sean Couturier skated this morning way before any of us were there, and he interviewed and apparently is probably a little ahead of what we thought he would be schedule-wise. He pushed himself a little bit more than he said that they would have liked him to, and I think by they he means the doctors, but he said that's going to happen when you're out there, and he said he felt good. The real test will be tomorrow. How does he feel tomorrow? But again, just from, first look, that's a good sign. They're still not going to rush him back, but that's a good sign. Philip Myers is an interesting one because we've talked about him before. He's got about 70 pro games in the tank, 60-something. But here's the thing. So I saw in rookie camp that he had gotten a little bit bigger for sure, muscular and put on weight and otherwise, right? And even during an interview, we had this exclusive interview for the Stick to Hockey podcast I do. Jason Matias and I, when we were sitting down in front of him, we were all just in this room. He was working on his wrists while he was interviewing. Like this kid was really, really, really looking to put on muscle, right? He came in today and he really does even look bigger than what he was in July. And he weighs 220 now. So now we're talking 6'5", 220, and he's faster. And I saw that he's a little faster. And I got to tell you, it's going to be hard to hold him back now with Andrew McDonald out. He knows he doesn't have a guaranteed spot. He knows with Christian Folin being added that he could easily suck up that roster spot. And if Gudas doesn't go anywhere and everything else stayed status quo, and he would still have a hard time making the team. But he's going to give them a lot to think about. If nothing else, he might get the 9 games simply because they have a need at the position and they want to try him out there if he does well during preseason. So that was a big thing for them. And Morgan Frost was just like the fastest guy there. And I'll let you read more about Frost. I saw a little bit of the Red Wings game, and Philip Zadina, while he had a nice goal, also got clocked at center ice. And he did get up and he finished the shift, and then he sort of was bent over a little when he went to the bench. I haven't heard that there's nothing wrong, so that's good. But unfortunately, if you have him on the team, which he's going to be, this is what's going to happen this year to a young player like that. Once in a while, he's going to take his licks, and you're going to have to just deal with it, and as a fan and as an organization. So that was something I noticed. St. Louis, I did see Kyrou and Thomas on display. And even though they were getting beat pretty badly, Kyrou in one of the games I saw had a really nice goal. And he and Thomas are just great together. Like I told you, I think Kyrou would start off as a winger.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty tremendous too.
Go take care of Kaya. I'll cover here.
We'll stop in a minute.
Now, in the middle of the Bills game yesterday, a lot of people were saying, well, at least we got the Sabres, because there was a lot of excitement over the course of the rookie tournament here in Buffalo. Rasmus Dahlin, especially in the first game, really flashed the abilities that made him the first overall pick, and a lot of people are excited, Russ. But not only just him, not only just Casey Middlestat, and again, we don't know what, you can have a great rookie tournament and then just fall flat in your face in the preseason, and you don't know what that really means. But there was an Alex Nylander sighting, and that for the Sabres is a big thing, because this is a guy who was taken 8th overall, and he's really struggled in his first 2 pro years. But really, he scored, I think, 3, maybe 4 goals in the tournament. So he looked pretty good. Their 7th round pick, who led the SHL in goals, Victor Olofsson, he also looked good. So I mean, there's a level of excitement here. I mean, granted, this is a team that's been just dreadful the last few years, with a ton of injuries. But if Eichel can, and I'm not saying they're going to compete for a playoff spot, because it's going to be a really tough division, but there is reason for optimism with Dahlin, with Middlestat, with some of these young kids. If Nylander plays well in the preseason, he'll make the team, because I think they're of a mind now to develop their youngsters. I don't know how far away Rasmus Asplund is, but they have a lot of Swedes and a lot of good ones, and this could be a really good team in a couple of years, Russ.
Yeah, I mean, they're building a culture there of Swedes, which is a good thing. We've seen what that does. We've seen, like, even with the Rangers, when they had Michael Nylander and Lundqvist, and they had a couple other guys too. Those kinds of things, that takes roots. That's a good thing. Dahlin, if you didn't think Dahlin was going to be anything but really, really good, then you just weren't paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't want to throw out Lidstrom, because I know other people are. I will not do that. But again, he will be one of the guys up for the Calder. We all expect that.
Yeah, and if there was a concern about him just being sort of a big offensive defenseman, or he laid out somebody, he does have a physical part of his game, and I think I remember talking to him as part of a scrum at the World Junior last December, and essentially says he has been working on the defensive side of the game, because he knows to be as successful as he wants to be, he's got to be good at both ends. And there'll always be little idiosyncrasies and little things that have to be corrected when you're a youngster, but I mean, he's extremely talented and very exciting to watch. But
I was just going to say, this is the thing that Buffalo has to be, for the fans, they can't put pressure to want something to happen, because they're frustrated and they've had long-term frustrations, and nor can the Sabres try and hurry this up. There's such great potential here. They've got to be patient to let it unfold in the right way.
Right. And
we all know what the right way is allow the kid to make mistakes. Don't put him into situations that are going to frustrate him and hold him back. Let him learn, teach him. And there's too much God-given skill there for him not to, but you can hinder it all by doing it the wrong way.
And that was what the Sabres were guilty of a few years ago. They drafted Eichel, and they said, we've got to turn it around after consecutive 30th place finishes. We've got to turn it around quickly. So let's make the deal for Kane and Bogosian. Yeah. Let's sign up Pozo. Let's accelerate the rebuild. Well, you can't do that. Sure. If it happens organically with your youngsters, like happened in Toronto, that's great. And I think maybe Botterill learned his lesson from what Toronto did. He's just going to let his youngsters play and let them learn, let them make mistakes, but they all have talent. And if, maybe in a year or two after Middlestat and Dahlin make their mistakes, they'll learn from them and they'll be
Yeah.
good. And if they are, I mean, they could move up fairly quickly in a division that's really talented. So
that's what the 16-17 season was for the Winnipeg Jets. They put all these young guys in,
right.
and they made a conscious decision as a club that this year is about teaching these guys. This year is about letting them learn. And they relied on guys like Wheeler and Little and Buff to say, we know you want to compete, but these guys have to be able to learn, and you're going to teach them. And when it comes together, you will be competing. And the proof was in the pudding.
Yeah.
But they've got to understand that the pressure isn't up there to win. The pressure is for you to learn, which is a completely different thing.
I think based on what we saw in that rookie game too with Kachuk, that he scored that goal the way he scores a lot of goals, cutting through the crease area.
Yep.
He's going to get the 9 games. Like, that's a guarantee. He will get the 9 games, and then they're going to probably see where he's at. But I think he might even get the 30-something games until they make a decision. Like, I have a feeling that's what's going to happen.
I just question whether it's going to be Belleville or London. I think
after that, yeah.
Yeah, if it's 9 games in Ottawa, fine, but I don't think they want to send him out of the American Hockey League and get have to defend himself physically. He could go to London and dominate offensively and play for Team USA at the World Junior, because I think he's still young enough to do so.
But if he has 5-6 points in these 9 games, he's probably.
Yeah. Then they keep him. Then
Then he's probably staying. I did see some of the Ranger game, although some of these I got to tell you. So thankfully, this Fox Sports Go app does carry a fair amount of these games because these teams' home networks are on Fox. But I have to tell you, when teams were tweeting originally, "Hey, come watch our free broadcast," you couldn't because you were out of browser region and you couldn't do it. And finally, some of those teams were getting the gist and saying, okay, I see. Yeah, you have to be in our area to be able to watch this. But, the best one was Vancouver's, who put theirs on YouTube. I mean, I thought that was great. They actually YouTube live.
For Toronto, we got the Leafs tweeted it out. It was on RDS, so we got to watch it, but we had to watch it with a French broadcast. And good luck trying to say Simeon Der Arkushintsev, or however you pronounce his name. And now that the French announcer butchered it like 3 or 4 times, but I probably just butchered it myself.
I'm going to say what I saw out of the Ranger game was, everybody's going crazy over Brett Howden. And it's funny because he was a guy that I always liked everything he did. Defensively, face-offs. Mm-hmm. He has a fair amount of skill. He's really a good worker down low. And I saw that he made a really nice cross-ice pass to get a goal for somebody. I can't remember who it was, down low. And so my only worry was, is he strong enough? It looks like he might be. I mean, he's up to, I think, 198 pounds. Mm. So, and that's a guy who I don't think they'll put him in right away. I think because of their plethora of centers, they'll have him start with Hartford. But if he got a call up this year, it might not be completely shocking. Now, other people did see Philip Cheeto getting knocked off his skates. It happens, man. I mean, it's like, doesn't mean he's not strong enough to be in the NHL. Like, I saw him a little in the NHL last year, right? Like, end of the day, I think he'll play wing. I don't think he'll play center at the NHL level for a while, if ever. And I think that will help him a lot as far as getting banged around and letting his offense do the talking, because I still saw some really good stick handling and otherwise from him. And Vancouver, look, it was funny because I was on Sirius the other day, and they brought up a few guys, and Pettersson was one of them. And they said, out of the list, who do you like the best? And they barely got done. And I said, Elias Pettersson. Like, he's just right now, when you see his shot and his release, it's as good as anybody you could see other than Ovechkin and Line A. It's like probably 10th best in the NHL already. Like, it's that.
I saw a couple of goals. Like, he scored, I think, 2 goals in the first game, at least one. It was a crazy shot.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter who was playing goal. That's the thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's start our team previews here. We'll start with the Arizona. Now, the Coyotes had another dreadful year last year, but it was mostly because of the beginning of the year. They were over 500 in the second half, and they actually showed a lot of improvement in the second half. Overall, they were 29, 41, and 12 for 70 points. They've made some changes in the offseason. They made the Max Domi for Alex Galchenyuk deal. They added Michael Grabner in free agency. I'm not going to hit all the ones that they did. I'm just doing sort of an overview here. But I think, Russ, and we'll just be brief on this. We're not going to make predictions on it. I think that the general impression of the Coyotes here is that they're going in the right direction. They're apparently going to use Galchenyuk up the middle, which has always been sort of his bête noire when he was with Montreal. But I think with the decrease of pressure on him and not being in the crucible of criticism in Montreal, that maybe that'll give them a little bit of a break. And they have a lot of talented youngsters like Keller and Strome and Dvorak. So I could see the Coyotes making progress. I just don't know whether they're going to make the playoffs, and I think that's a bridge too far.
My question is, if they do use Galchenyuk down the middle, I mean, then it'll be Stepan, Galchenyuk. I guess Dvorak moves to 3C. What are you doing with Dylan Strome? Like, if he's ready to make it. So I don't know what they're going to do there, because Dvorak is a heck of a center. Like, he's already really good at faceoffs and very strong.
Right.
Maybe they'll make him the fourth line center, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do about that.
They just signed him to an extension, and he's next year going to be making over $4 million. So I don't think they're going to put him in a fourth line center. I mean, that's why I was questioning the putting Galchenyuk off the middle. You know, maybe. I'm not 100% sure where they're going there. I know that, they think Galchenyuk can get back his, joie de vivre, so to speak, and score 30 goals again. And then maybe they'll give him an opportunity, but maybe they're just waiting. And remember, Montreal gave Galchenyuk about 2 games under Claude Julien, and then they moved him back to the wing. So we know he can play the wing. They're going to try to give him a chance at center, but it may be temporary.
I think their goaltending's fairly stable with Ranta and Kepner. That's good.
Ranta, he had played 47 games and had a .930 save percentage.
Yeah. I mean, but again, a lot of those games didn't mean anything. Let's see it when the pressure's on. Everything. He's passed every test for me. I just didn't know if he could be the guy. And I want to see at the start of the season, when you have to start flat-footed again and you're hoping to make the playoffs, how that goes for him. If it goes well, then they're in good shape there. I mean, if we believe Jacob Chychrun is close to 100%, the top 4 is good. Like Ekman Larson, Yarmulson, Chychrun, Goligoski, that's good. The bottom pair, Demers and Connaughton, whatever. Nobody loves the bottom pair of any team. I still think this team needs more scoring. On the wing, they're a little weak. I like Perlini, but I still don't know what he'll do. What did he get? About 12, 15 goals last year, something like that. That's why I still would rather have Galchenyuk on the wing, to be honest, because you got Fisher, Grabner. If Grabner's going to have another one of his good years,
Richard Panik, Brad Richardson.
There's not enough scoring on the wing. Clayton Keller, obviously, there's a lot of scoring there.
Yeah, Arizona has everything, all the ingredients to be a team that can change its fortunes from the last few years. It's all right there. Does it get brought together? Do they figure out what kind of tactics they want to play, the strategy they want to play, and all these other things? And can they keep the puck, get some goals? I mean, they were the lowest goal differential in the or the highest goal differential, a -58, I think it was, in the West last year.
Right.
I mean, they need something more, but they've got to figure out how to get it, because I think they have the pieces there. Again, I'm not sold on their defense. I mean, you love Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but everyone else is 30 plus, other than Chychrun, sorry.
Yeah.
And and it's a weird sort of it's a weird group. They're not terrible or anything, and they need to be more than the sum of their parts, is kind of how that defense needs to play, because they can't give up the goals. They have the potential for great goaltending or playoff level goaltending to get you there. They've just got to find a way to reduce some of those goals and score a bunch more.
You know what it's going to be for that team? That team will probably be make it or break it on special teams with the power play and the PK, because they should have a good power play based on the guys they have, but sometimes you need those veterans to mix in on a power play. They may not have that. And PK, you would think with Grabner would be great. If they have a spectacular PK, that could really help them. If he's going to score a bunch of shorthanded goals, that could really help them move up the ranks. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and Ronta's got to stay healthy because he was hurt for most of the first half, and they had to play, guys like Scott Wedgwood in goal, and that didn't help them. Now, conversely, in terms of we think Arizona's on the rise. Conversely, and I'm starting to have some concerns about Anaheim starting to age and slip. I've liked them the last few years. They had a good regular season last year, 44, 25, and 13, 101 points, but lost pretty quickly to San Jose in the first round last year. The concerns about Ryan Kessler and his availability this year, we've heard stuff about him, sitting out the first half or maybe sitting out the entire year with an injury. They extended John Gibson, so that gives them long-term stability in net. They've extended Josh Manson last year. They got Brandon Montour, and they have a really good top four on defense. I don't like their bottom pairing right now. It could be Andre Schuster and Luke Shen. I mean, my goodness.
Well, and it's funny. Roster Resource pulled out Luke Shen and they put Marcus Pettersson. I happen to like Pettersson. If you were ready to make that step and it were Pettersson and Shen and you moved Schuster out, that'd be pretty solid defense.
Well, and that's my point when it comes to Anaheim, because there are concerns right now. Not only Kessler, now they extended Henrique. They because I think maybe they were afraid of Kessler's long-term future. Silverberg is a UFA at the end of this year, but he's a good player. Patrick Eaves was out for most of last year, wasn't he? Or if he wasn't, I didn't even notice him. They still have to get Nick Ritchie signed on a deal after his ELC, but Russ, they have Jakob Larson, they have Sam Steele, they have Troy Terry. I mean, there are guys coming. This is an organization, Max Jones. There are guys in this organization that are ready to step up. So
if you told me Steele and Terry somehow made the team, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I think Steele could make the team. I mean, I don't know if he has anything else to learn in the WHL. He led the league in scoring 2 years ago. So, well, what are your overall feelings on the Ducks?
Well, the other thing is obviously goaltending is really good. I mean, that situation hasn't changed. The interesting thing is when you get to the third line, again, if Roster Resource is right, and they have Richie, Kalle Kosela, and Patrick Eaves. Kalle Kosela is a 25-year-old guy that they signed out of St. Cloud, played in the AHL, was like a point a game in the AHL. This is a very talented guy who literally could add 40 points to their roster, and it wouldn't shock me. If he gets to play with a guy like Eaves and Richie, who certainly knocks things loose around the net, that could be a really good third line, like very underrated, under the radar kind of third line. And then, look, their fourth line's not very good. It's not. I mean, they have Gibbons, Kevin Roy, and Andre Case, who David Case, his brother, I think it's his brother, looked really good for the Flyers. If it's not his brother, oh well. But I think they're missing on the fourth line. They could plug in some of these young guys, but you don't want them to be fourth liners. So I think it's going to be hard for those guys to make the team. Maybe there's an injury. They're still a good team. They're still a playoff team. I liked them better last year. I don't know why I don't like them as much this year. I can't put my finger on it other than maybe it's the Boudreau factor. I don't know.
Or the Carlisle factor.
Carlisle factor. Sorry.
Well,
you're starting your top. Yeah, I mean, Cogliano 31, Kessler 34, Getzlaf 33, Perry 33. Who else? Gibbons 30, Carter Rowney 29.
Their defense is
one aged perfectly. Like they I don't have concerns about their defense, but if we don't know what's going on with Kessler, you're an age drop injury away, like a regression injury away, or with Perry and Getzlaf from just absolutely going right off the edge. Well, and that's the biggest problem for them.
You're potentially strung up the middle because it's if you have Henrique replacing Kessler, you have Getzlaf, Henrique, and Raquel can play center. And I don't know if they're going to play him at center or play him on the wing, but that's a top three. That's not bad. I think the big concern here, Peter, is the fact that Perry has shown his age in the last couple of years. He's definitely on decline, and you're talking another 2 years after this year at 8.6. That's buyout territory.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to make predictions in terms of playoffs or not playoffs, but I think the key to Anaheim being relevant and staying in the mix is going to be those youngsters coming up and contributing. And if they do,
they could be a couple of injuries away and miss the playoffs.
Yes.
Like if Getzlaf and
if Gibson gets hurt again, he's gotten hurt every year.
Gibson gets hurt again, and you've got Getzlaf out for a little while, and you've got either Perry or Kessler out for a little while, they could miss the playoffs.
Yeah. A couple little notes here in terms of PTOs. We're keeping an eye on those because they're going to be coming fast and furious in the next few days before the opening of training camp on Thursday. The Islanders, Lucas Spiza is being invited on a PTO, Russ. I mean, I'm not sure if this is like big newsworthy, but do you think that Spiza has an opportunity to make the Islanders?
I do because unfortunately they don't have a lot on the blue line. The Islanders, boy, they are just a mishmash right now. They really are. And so a guy like Spiza could go in there and definitely play third pair. Like, there's no question. I mean, with the losses the Islanders have had on the blue line too, there's opportunities. There's opportunities everywhere on that team. There's a lot of older veterans and guys, that are in spots that could easily be beaten out. Filppula, again, like if you had anybody that was better, you would rather go with that guy than Valtteri Filppula at this point. He might be their second line center. Is that where he's going to play?
Well, Anders Lee is going to be one of the centers.
No, so he'll be third line center.
Yeah.
Still, third line center, he can't do that anymore.
Yeah, but he's going to have to. He'll probably. I'll bet you anything it'll be Filppula playing with Leo Komarov. You have the Finns together. Boston has extended the most PTOs of any team in the league, 4, and they announced today Daniel Winnick has been 33 years old, has been invited on a PTO. That
a lot about him.
Yes, right. He's been in Toronto a few times. That he joins Mark Fane, former Devil Mark Fane, Marcel Nobles, who I don't know a lot about.
Marcel Nobles used to be a Flyers prospect, and he was pretty good. His skating was never up to par, but he's coming back from the DEL, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And Lee
really good there.
And 35-year-old Lee Stempniak.
Oh boy!
So
Stempniak may still have the speed. He might be like Matt Cullen and might be able to work himself in.
And he was in Boston before a couple years ago. He got traded from when he got signed to a PTO by the Devils. He had a good year. He got traded to the Bruins for a couple draft picks.
Blends into a locker room, and I think coaches forget that Lee Stempniak's on the roster sometimes. I do.
Peter, the oldest PTO invite. I guess this is sort of like Roman Polak last year, where he was with the Leafs and then he had the injury and then they invited him on a PTO before signing him. The Islanders have extended a PTO to Dennis Seidenberg, who's 37.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now
Ron Hainsey part 2.
Wait, you said the Islanders did that?
The Islanders did.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that battle will be like, Pellick and Mayfield's supposed to be, I guess, their third pairing. So really, this is a battle for the 7th spot between those two.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, and both of these players, I believe, if they do sign them to contracts, they're not going to be waiver exempt. They'd have to clear waivers to go down to the American Hockey League. A lot of teams are looking for those 7-8 guys, and so I know, for example, for Toronto, they have a guy like Justin Hall who did really well in the AHL for the Marlies, won a Calder Cup, scored a couple goals in 2 games for the Leafs. He's not waiver exempt anymore. He's 26 years old, and he's sort of a borderline NHL, AHL guy. And I get the feeling he has a good chance at being one of those 7-8 guys because they would lose him if they tried to send him down to the Marlies. So
even though I'm calling one of those guys the 7 on the Islanders, the Islanders have problems because, look, Letty's great. Boychuk's got a lot of mileage, but he's a top pairing guy for them. Hickey is a second pairing guy, which I'm sorry. I mean, he could play a little defense and he definitely could skate, but Thomas Hickey is not a second pairing D-man. But he's going to probably be that with Kulak unless, Pellick or Mayfield moves up and he moves down. But again, their 6 is just not that good. That's the problem as a whole, as a collective group.
Well, the one I'm going to be interested in, Peter, is Jason Garrison with the Edmonton Oilers, because he didn't play at all last year. I think he played 5 games with Vegas.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. And, and Garrison, he was one of those guys, they got him in Vancouver. He was expected to do something, and then he got traded out. He's had a weird career, and I guess it's something that never really quite lived up to billing. But if you're Edmonton, what do you got to lose? Like,
he's always good on the power play, and he has a big shot when he plays. But
he's not a replacement for Darnell Nurse.
No.
If I look at the list of injuries for Jason Garrison, there's always an injury update on him. I'm sure there was one this summer and we just missed it.
All right.
Has to be signed. Like, this is the craziest thing. I don't even care what he is asking for. Edmonton has to sign him. If he holds out, they are in big trouble.
I think they're in big trouble one way or the other. I mean,
I
Sakara.
think they're in big trouble, but they could be in big trouble if he holds out.
Yeah. Well, okay, we'll talk about and they won't be holdouts, but I guess we'll talk about the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins tomorrow in our team previews. Also talk about some of the players who are still not signed. I know that there is hue and cry in Toronto about William Nylander still being unsigned. That will probably get done in the next few days. Nick Ritchie is unsigned, and there's a few other. Miles Wood, apparently there's a lot of distance between him and the Devils on a new deal. So we'll
all right, let's hold on.
I know.
Burying the lead on that one. I find that one comical because the Devils haven't really done much in the offseason.
Yeah.
They've admitted to that.
Mm-hmm.
And now they can't even come to terms with Miles Wood.
And he scored like 16 or 17 goals.
Yeah,
so
it's like
I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. Is it, did the owner of the Devils spend all of his money trying to woo LeBron James?
It really seems that way. It does seem like what the Sixers have done is affecting the Devils, because I can't blame this on Ray Shero, because Shero's done a great job with trades and otherwise. I think he is a little hamstrung in what he could spend, and I do kind of wonder what these negotiations are like, because it's not like the Devils are loaded on offense.
Yeah. All right, good show, guys. We will be back tomorrow. Stay tuned for the time. I probably will be up in Toronto, so it could be a later in the afternoon show, but we'll keep you updated. For Peter Tessier, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.